What's going on YouTube? Ferocity here. Today I want to talk some Star Wars with you guys. More specifically, I am here to say the prequels are better than the sequels. Now before I get a bunch of internet hate, hear me out. And if you guys still disagree with me at the end of this video, please leave a comment letting me know why I'm wrong, which I know will be civil and definitely coherent. Or probably not. Okay, well I didn't actually have this opinion until recently, after I rewatched the prequels a couple weeks ago. And well, a couple too many visits to our prequel memes might have helped this as well. I originally hated these movies because the internet told me to, which, well, I feel the same is being done with the sequel trilogy right now. But I think those movies do have some glaring holes in them that need to be addressed. I'm not here to say I hate the sequel trilogy. I may do a video in the future talking about my feelings towards them, but today I want to focus on why the prequels are better than those sequel movies. Like I said earlier, I used to hate these movies, the prequels that is, make fun of the bad dialogue, envision what a better trilogy would look like, but upon my recent rewatch of these three movies, I enjoyed them. I'm not saying they are cinematic masterpieces, but they are adequate and do a much better job of strengthening the Star Wars universe than the sequels do. Which gets me to my first point. The prequels do more service to the original trilogy than the sequels. Now, I wasn't old enough to really theorize what the prequel trilogy would look like, as I was only 8 when The Phantom Menace released. But man, did I collect those pop cans and play way too much Pod Racer for the N64, but I digress. I imagine the main theories for what would be explained in the prequels would be Anakin's fall to the dark side, the rise of the Empire, the Clone Wars, and something with the Jedi. Just anything with the Jedi. Maybe their rise and fall. Just wanted something. Now, I'd say the prequels did a good job explaining all these points, with maybe the exception of the Clone Wars, but we got a pretty kick-ass TV show and movie to explain that. And maybe the return of that TV show. I think Anakin's fall wasn't written perfectly, but it was believable. I would have liked more scenes with him and Palpatine where Palpatine would continue to manipulate Anakin into trusting him more without questioning it. Maybe a few more scenes that would make him question the Jedi Order. Like I said, these movies aren't masterpieces, but they are adequate. Which applies to Anakin's fall to the dark side as well. I believe it because I believe in his love for Padme and his wanting to do the best for himself and his loved ones. Now, on to the rise of the Empire, which I thought was done interestingly, as we saw it coming and knew it was going to come, but I wasn't expecting it to be a response to trade disputes, and I didn't expect it to be extremely political either, but it was a unanimous political decision. Very much a nod to 1930s Germany as people just blindly follow Palpatine. I really love Palpatine's arc in the prequels, but we'll talk more on that later. Lastly, I love the Jedi throughout the prequels. They're shown as this peaceful yet arrogant part of the Republic. That arrogance is what led to their demise, and I love the execution of Order 66 and their subsequent fall. Also, they made it believable as to how Obi-Wan and Yoda escaped to be the only remaining Jedi after the purge of the Jedi in Order 66. I feel all these points make the OT better because we understand more about who Vader is and why he is so conflicted. He is the ultimate badass, the most feared man in the galaxy, yet throws that all away to save his son? Because deep down, Anakin wanted to save people. The people he even loved. We also see why Vader is so obedient to the Empire and the Emperor, even though a couple more scenes with some manipulation with Palpatine would have gone a long way to better illustrate this point, but he still is very obedient towards them. Even though, for all intents and purposes, throughout the trilogy of the original trilogy, we believe Vader to be stronger than the Emperor. I guess what I'm saying is that the prequels did their job and made the OT better and made the Star Wars universe better, which really was a hard task to do and really answered most of our dire questions after the Return of the Jedi. Okay, now on to the sequels. They had so much potential with such a wealth of amazing extended universe books to be based on. It was destined to make our favorite universe better. But after 2 movies, I just don't feel these movies have done much to make the universe better. Whereas the prequels, I think, did a very good job of strengthening the OT. The sequels just haven't done it. Let's start with The Force Awakens. We start the movie off with such a soft reboot, which could be fine, but nothing's explained. Nothing as to how the First Order rose. Also, we are told that people believe that Luke Skywalker is a legend who isn't real. A fucking legend? I'm sorry, the man who turned Darth Vader isn't real. We even get a moment where Han fucking Solo explains that the Force is real. What? Like, are we just pretending no one knows what happened 30 years ago? Like, Finn should know all of this is real. Be programmed to hate Luke Skywalker. And this is my main point. I'm not saying the sequels are bad movies, but they just don't add anything to the universe or its characters. Which brings me to my next point. The characters. Let's start off with how the sequel trilogy destroys the protagonist from the original trilogy. Okay? So let's start with Luke. Luke leaves, becomes bitter, starts a new Jedi Order, fails, then dies. Not maybe in that order, but that's essentially Luke's arc in the new trilogy. He never gets his character redeemed through these two movies, and that's partly on Rian Johnson's terrible movie, The Last Jedi, and that's partly on JJ not giving him anything to do in The Force Awakens. Han resorts back into what he was in A New Hope and undoes all of his character development from the original trilogy, only to throw that away at first sight of the Millennium Falcon to help the Resistance. And part of me wishes that Leia was part of the fight more. Be that fierce female character that she was in the original trilogy. Overall, the stories of our heroes just seem to become just that. Stories, legend. Even our characters forget who they once were. It just did them no justice. But the old characters had to take a back seat to the new characters, you say. Well, okay, then let's explore the new characters. Now, here we go into rant time. I won't go on and say Rey is a Mary Sue, but damn, does she not do anything wrong? I mean, everything goes right for her. Like, not one thing. This girl is perfect. I mean, like, Daisy Ridley, you are kind of perfect. But this hurts her character. Finn could have been cool. He could have been a cool character, but they made him a side gag character in the second movie. Poe is cool, but damn, they wasted him in The Last Jedi too. Once again, could be doing a whole ass Jedi rant right now, but I'm gonna leave that for a video. Now, on to the villains. I loved Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens, but once again, they wasted him in the second movie. I actually found him compelling and interesting. Snoke was cool, but wow, surprise, he was wasted as well in The Last Jedi. Hux is bad. He's just not menacing at all. He's like someone who thinks they actually have power, but doesn't. Like, they were going for Grand Moff Tarkin, but got a slight upgrade from Jar Jar. And what characters does the sequel have that they brought in that are going to be memorable? Name one Resistance pilot. Rose? Like, no. She sucks. No offense to the actress. It wasn't her fault. It was just poorly written. But she's not very good. Maz, well, she's wasted in Last Jedi as well. Don't get me started with Captain Phasma. Like, none of these characters do anything to make the universe better. Remember, the sequel trilogy was supposed to be a love story about the original trilogy, or a love story to the original trilogy. And it just hasn't been that. Like, there could have been so many opportunities to make potentially Maz Kanata into the next Yoda, or the next Mace Windu, or whatever it might be. But we didn't get that. And now moving to the characters in the prequel trilogy. The three main characters of Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan are all fantastic. Obi-Wan is by far the best. His character in the prequels was probably the best part of the three movies. Ewan McGregor absolutely killed it. His arc from Jedi Apprentice to Master is understandable and believable. And the trust he has with the Council makes sense. I don't know if you guys remember this line, and I don't remember it for a T, but in the Phantom Menace, he essentially berates Qui-Gon Jinn for going against the Jedi Council again, because Obi-Wan believes so strongly in the Jedi Council and that we need to follow the Jedi Council, where Qui-Gon Jinn doesn't believe that way. And I like that. I really do. Padme is a badass. She leaves the throne, for crying out loud, to be part of the action. She fights in Attack of the Clones. She fights in The Phantom Menace. And yeah, her duplicate dies, but whatever. She's still Queen Amidala and is a badass all at the same time. She experiences setbacks and actual loss, like the loss of her decoy and other men that she had in her cabinet, I guess you could say. I still don't like her role in Revenge of the Sith, but I still think overall, the first two movies, she does a very good job, and I think Padme is a good character. Then Anakin. I mean, he isn't perfect, but man, he's so conflicted, which is great. And you feel it. He wants power, he wants love, friendship, and respect. That's how he gets manipulated, and I just think it works so well. And Anakin is somebody who kind of plays both sides. He's being diplomatic, but at the same time, he's being part of the Jedi Order. And his reaction to not being granted Master is the same way we would react. So he's almost relatable in that sense, and we understand his turn a little bit more because we understand the Jedi kind of did him dirty in a way. Now let's talk about the supporting characters. This is where the prequels kill it over the sequel trilogy. I mean, Mace Windu, Yoda, Qui-Gon Jinn, Darth freaking Maul, General Grievous, Count Dooku. Okay, maybe not the last two, but seriously, Darth Maul, Mace Windu, Qui-Gon Jinn win this category alone for me. Some of the most memorable characters in movie history. There is a reason why Qui-Gon Jinn got brought back in Clone Wars, Darth Maul got brought back in Clone Wars, and then again in Star Wars Rebels, I believe. I haven't seen it, but I think he's in it. And not much can be said for Mace Windu, as we haven't seen him since Revenge of the Sith, but he's in all three movies. He's quite wise, and I think it's one of the better characters that Samuel L. Jackson plays, to be honest. And I just love it. And I will say, as far as villains go, like, if Kylo was written better in The Last Jedi, and we got more on Snoke and potentially the Knights of Ren, I would think the villains for the sequels would be better than the prequels. But, man, because of that, and the fact that the prequels have Palpatine, he's the man. Like, I never really appreciated Palpatine and how well he orchestrated everything until I recently watched the prequels again. Like, he convinced everyone. He was so trustworthy. His arc is perfect, and it blends so well into what he is in the original trilogy. Menacing, powerful, confident, arrogant. It's almost like he's arrogant all throughout the movies, and we can sense that arrogance a little bit, like, I know this is going to work out. And it ends up working out. He doesn't make a mistake. And that's kind of what makes an evil bad guy so powerful, so menacing. And that's what I think is kind of lost with Snoke, is if you want Snoke to be your big baddie and be menacing, he needs to have that established. And Palpatine's just written so well in the prequels that it makes his character so much stronger in Return of the Jedi. Now, let's be honest, he has a few cringy lines, but it's the prequels. Let's cut him some slack. Like, most of it was done really well. Okay, so in conclusion, I think when it comes to making the Star Wars universe better as a whole, the story decisions in the prequels, along with its strong characters, makes it better miles ahead of the mess that is the sequel trilogy. There's so much potential in the sequel trilogy, and it just misses the mark in so many ways. Just so many missed opportunities. But once again, I'm going to talk about that more in a future video. Anyway, that's the video. What do you guys think? Are the prequels better than the sequels? And how do you like this format of video? It was the first time I've ever written a script out for a video. Please, any feedback would be great. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button. And may the Force be with you.